What's up, Bama Insider Nation? Trey Kennedy here for a coaching spotlight. Today we're going to be talking about Doug Marrone, the new offensive line coach. Before we get into this video, guys, hit the like button for me, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and check out BamaInsider.com for the latest in Alabama Crimson Tide football. So far, we've had the chance to cover Nick Saban, fitting way to lead it off. Bill O Brien came second, and Pete Golding was on our YouTube channel yesterday. We hope you guys had the chance to check out that video. Today, it's Doug Marrone. Marrone, of course, was hired this offseason to replace Kyle Flood, and hired not even a year after being fired from the Jacksonville Jaguars of the NFL. Marrone is originally from the Bronx, New York, and he spent his college years in Syracuse, where he was a 3-year letterman, which if you've seen the movie The Express, you know that at Syracuse, being a letterman is a pretty big deal. Marrone was an offensive lineman for the Orange from 1983 to 1985, and would eventually come back to finish his degree at Syracuse in 1991. But before all that, he headed to the pros, and after being drafted in the 6th round of the 1986 NFL Draft by the Los Angeles Raiders, Marrone was set for the NFL. Although after the big day, Marrone failed to make the cut on the 53-man roster and had to wait a year. In 1987 though, this time with the Dolphins, he would get his chance. He saw action in 4 games that season on a very talented Dolphins team. But after that, some adversity came Doug's way. And you hear a lot of pro athletes talk about dealing with failure. Marrone had to deal with it quite a bit. He would eventually be cut by 6 different NFL teams, only seeing time in one more game with the New Orleans Saints in 1989. He traveled overseas and played with the football team in London before officially hanging it up in the mid-90s. Marrone may not look back on his playing career as anything to marvel at, but his coaching career has had high praise from the jump. On December 11th, 2008, after the 2008 season, Marrone was chosen as Syracuse University's head football coach. He was the first alumni to serve as the head coach since Reeves H. Basinger in 1948. Before being hired at Syracuse, Marrone served as an assistant coach for numerous universities and NFL teams starting in 1992, including a stint with the New Orleans Saints as the offensive coordinator from 2006 to 2008. Now, there were reports that alumni such as Tim Green and the famed Floyd Little wanted Marrone from the jump, that previous head coach Greg Robinson was fired. When Marrone was interviewed by Green, it was found out that he had kept a folder of current high school players in the Syracuse area to get a head start on recruiting. In Marrone's first season, the Orange only picked up 4 wins, one more than their previous season though, and they doubled that output the following season. Marrone would eventually get a win in the Pinstripe Bowl in 2010, and in 2011, he would defeat number 11 West Virginia in the first 5 games of the season. In 2012, Marrone coached Syracuse to an 8-5 record and a share of the Big East title, a result in a 4-way tie. Their 38-14 victory in the Pinstripe Bowl again came against the West Virginia Mountaineers. After a successful stint in Syracuse, Marrone decided he was heading back to the pros, and on January 6, 2013, he was chosen to succeed Chan Gailey as the head coach of the Buffalo Bills. His overall record during 2 seasons as head coach in Buffalo was 15-17, and during his Bills tenure, Marrone nicknamed himself Saint Doug, referring to the fact that it takes 2 miracles to be deemed a saint. He believed winning at Syracuse was one miracle, and winning at Buffalo would qualify as the other. 2014, the Bills finished with a record of 9-7, second place in the AFC East, and 2 wins away from making the playoffs. This was the Bills' first winning season in 10 years. Now in Buffalo, things got a little bit weird after the 2014 season. On the very final day of the year, Ralph Wilson, the longtime owner, sold the team. That didn't make Marrone too happy. He had a 3-day out clause, and he used that. In 2014, he announced that he'd be leaving the team, and several players after the fact showed their displeasure and disgust with both the decision and the way that he informed the team. One of the captains and former running back Fred Jackson said it was like getting punched in the stomach. But Marrone decided things in Buffalo weren't going to be right, and he needed to move on to his next job. On January 20th, 2015, Marrone was hired as an assistant head coach and offensive line coach for the Jacksonville Jaguars. On December 19th, 2016, Marrone was named their interim head coach, following the firing of former head coach Gus Bradley. He coached the final 2 games of that 2016 season, and on January 9, 2017, the Jaguars officially removed the interim tag and named Marrone the 5th head coach in team history. That same day, the Jaguars also announced the return of former head coach Tom Coughlin. In his very first season as the full-time head coach in 2017, the Jaguars won the AFC South Division Championship, making the playoffs for the first time since 2007. On January 7, 2018, the Jaguars won their first playoff game under Marrone, defeating the Buffalo Bills in the wildcard round 10-3. The next round, they would upset the Pittsburgh Steelers, advancing to the AFC Championship game, where they were defeated by the New England Patriots of a score 24-20, a thrilling game. On February 23, 2018, the Jaguars extended his contract through 2021, but not everybody kept their word. On December 31, 2019, Jaguars owner Shahid Khan announced that Marrone would keep his job through at least the 2020 season, despite back-to-back losing seasons since making the AFC Championship game. Following the 28-14 loss to the Indianapolis Colts on January 3, 2021, earlier this year, Marrone's Jaguars became the very first team since the 2001 Carolina Panthers to lose 15 consecutive games in a season following Week 1. The 15-game losing streak is only the second in NFL history, and on January 4, 2021, owner Shahid Khan announced that Marrone would not be retained for the 2021 season and was fired. He finished his overall record with Jacksonville at 23-43 and a record of 2-1 in the playoffs. As we've talked about in videos like the one on Bill O Brien released earlier this week, Alabama always finds a way to help coaches that are down on their luck. And on January 19, 2021, Marrone was named the offensive line coach, joining the staff along with Bill O Brien. Marrone made out alright in the NFL. He's now listed as a current net worth of $8 million, and we look at his coaching tree here, it's a pretty small one. His parents in the NFL, Herm Edwards, the famed head coach, along with Sean Payton of the New Orleans Saints. His children, Mike Pettine, and several assistants at Syracuse that have gone on to become head coaches at the NCAA level. So what is Marrone's role at Alabama going to look like? Well, he was hired as the offensive line coach, yes, but on a staff that is so deep as far as coaches go, I think Marrone's going to have the freedom to assist on somewhat of a secondary offensive coordinator role to Bill O Brien. The fact that Alabama was able to bring in not just one, but two former NFL head coaches and two NFL head coaches that aren't even a year out of the NFL is jaw-dropping. And the fact that this Alabama offensive line this year is going to have a nice mix of older players and younger players, guys like Chris Owens that he's going to have to work with, but guys like J.C. Latham, the incoming five-star, that he's going to have the chance to develop. So how long do we expect to see Doug Marrone at Alabama? Like O'Brien, I assume he won't be the OL coach for very long, but as we talk about a timetable, I would imagine this season, maybe next season, is all Marrone will need to head back to the NFL, or somewhat of an elevated role in the college realm at least. Sal Sunseri is next up on our coaching spotlight. If you missed yesterday's video on defensive coordinator Pete Golding, it's one you're going to want to check out. Hit the rest of the YouTube page, like the channel, subscribe, and go to BamaInsider.com as well for all things Alabama Crimson Tide football. For BamaInsider.com, my name is Trey Yanity. This has been a coaching spotlight on offensive line coach Doug Marrone.